Bases dropped on your Friday. It's the end of another week here at Soccer Down Here, at least another Monday through Friday week, because we got other stuff. You know, this weekend it's going to be busy with Atlanta United. We'll get into that discussion. We've got all the Major League Soccer stuff. We've got folks not traveling for Major League Soccer matches, and I'm sure folks are mad. See Vancouver, British Columbia. We got that to get into. All the MLS preview. Stacked show this morning because of everything that we have to cover. We've got news we're going to get into at opening kickoff. Jason's going to be joining us quickly in hour number 2, because when we're done, you can go over to 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app, and you can catch Jason hanging out with the midday guys. So Jason will be there. 10:30, we're going to catch up with our friends at Decatur FC, because they have their first ever in the WPSL tonight, Decatur High School. So we're going to be catching up with folks there. And it's going to be fun to kind of pull back the curtain on what it's like to grow something and be right before the unveiling. Mixed in with all of that, it's weekend whip around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later, where we go through all the juice boxes and all the matchups and get you prepped for everything that's going on in Major League Soccer. And anything else on your mind as we head into the weekend and let everybody know what's going on in your brain, between the space between the ears, whatever's on your mind, whether it's Atlanta United going up against LAFC, how rotated is the roster going to be? What's it going to look like with a starting 11? What's the game day 18 going to look like? You know, the approach, the news that came out yesterday, all those kinds of things. Whatever's on the table, throw it in the pile. And my guess is that we might be infringing upon Jason's time with the midday guys. We might be going past 11:05 just because of all the information that we've got to get into the table. Yes, and Dell is letting us remember that Wilmer Cabrera, in his first match as the new head coach of El Paso Locomotive, gets to go to Charleston to take on the Battery. We'll get into the juice boxes there as well. I imagine it might be a long night for our friend Wilmer Cabrera with what's going on at El Paso and heading into a very angry environment at Patriots Point. So morning, Dell. So with all this stuff going on, figure we'll go ahead and we'll just really go ahead and just start things off. We'll start with this. Broken news out of Barcelona. Barcelona may still just be broken, period. So, you know, a couple weeks pass by. Xavi's like, I know folks are courting me, but I think I'm going to stay. Barca's like, cool. Now they're not. Barca sacked Xavi this morning. Failed to win a trophy. He's going to take charge of the last La Liga match on Sunday at Sevilla before going. Statement from Barcelona. Joan Laporta has told Xavi he will not continue as coach. And now it appears Hansi Flick is the leader in the clubhouse to take over for Xavi. January, Xavi said he'd leave at the end of the year. Then they had a good run of form. In April, last month, a positive, he tells Laporta he'd stay for the next campaign with the contract expiring this time next year. Barca says a statement, very statementy. I'm not going to repeat it. In the coming days, Barcelona will reveal the new coaching structure for the first team staff. They won La Liga last year, couldn't defend their campaign, knocked out of the quarters in Champions League by PSG, beaten by Real Madrid in the Super Cup, lost to Athletic Bilbao in the Copa del Rey. Speaking of Barcelona, a Spanish court quashed bribery charges against Barcelona relating to the referee and corruption scandal and halted an investigation into Joan Laporta. Former presidents Bartomeu and Rosell and others remain under investigation. for alleged sporting corruption after the club paid a former refereeing chief more than €7 million between 1994 and 2018. 24 years, and you get paid €7.3 million. Prosecutors suspect Barca paid a company owned by Jose Maria Enriquez Negreira, the former VP of Spain's refereeing committee between 2001 and 2018, to influence refereeing decisions. Barca comes out with another statement. Yay. Decision to quash the bribery charges hinges on the Barcelona court deciding Negreira did not have the status of, quote, public official during his time as vice president of the CTA. Investigation began back in March of 23 after Spain's tax authorities identified irregularities in tax payments made between 16 and 18 by the company Dasnil 95, owned by Negreira. Barcelona said they paid Dasnil 95 to advise the club on refereeing matters and produce reports on officials. Sounds very Mark Clattenburg-y. So Xavi out, Hansi Flick probably in. Just weeks after he says, I think I'll listen to you. I think I'll hang. Gets the U-turn. Laporta had reacted angrily, apparently, after Xavi commented on the club's financial struggles last week. So all right, so let's see if we can pin this down. Xavi's leaving. Then he gets talked into staying. They have a good run of form. They don't win a trophy. Then last week, Xavi says that he's not happy about the financial struggles that Barcelona's having. Well, when you're building a new stadium despite selling the front of your jersey to Spotify? Xavi makes the comments, stated Barca are unable to compete with Real Madrid and other top European rivals on an economic level, quotes, as he told the fans, the situation is very difficult. Understood the Blaugrana have already lined up Hansi Flick. Meeting took place at the Ciutat Esportiva Joan Gamper, sports VP and the sports director, as well as Xavi's assistants, were all present, according to Barcelona. Then Barcelona once again circles back to the statement. We'd like to thank him for his time. Blah, 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 blah. I need like a blah, 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 blah kind of a thing. And then also, if you didn't think it was just the one coach this morning, AC Milan and Pioli are parting ways. So you've got that as well that is going on this morning. Pioli's leaving AC Milan after 5 seasons, guiding them to a Serie A title. Under contract until 25, departing at the end of the current season after having been in charge since October 2019. One more match against Salernitana, who've already been relegated. Finishing second this year, but way behind Inter, clinched the title by beating Pioli's team 2-1 at the end of April. Pioli's fate sealed by a failure to mount a serious title challenge. This is from our friends at Agence France Presse. As well as an early exit from Champions League, being knocked out of the Europa League by AS Roma. Fans showed their displeasure at the underwhelming campaign when Milan played Genoa at the San Siro early this month, unfurling a banner demanding improvements, while the hardcore ultras stayed silent in protest throughout the 3-3 draw. The Curva Sud, which is where the ultras stand, emptied a quarter of an hour before the final whistle. Left behind was a banner which simply read the sounds of silence. Paulo Fonseca is in line to take over. He's right now at Lille. And then Milan came out with their statement. So Pioli out, Fonseca possibly in, Xavi out, possibly Hansi Flick in. And we failed to mention that Claudio Ranieri is, it looks like his career managing is over. He's going to retire at the age of 72. So after his time at Cagliari is done at the end of this season. And it looks like team principal Gareth O'Sullivan will be the one joining us at 10:30 to discuss what's going on with Decatur FC. So that's your rundown. That's the early stuff that's happened this morning. So a lot of international stuff going on. And I give a particular podcast full and total credit for Barcelona. We know their slogan. The TSF podcast basically said Meske un club and added an S, MESSK un club. Nico Cantor referring to it as a carnival of incoherence. I don't think he's necessarily wrong. It's a hell of a phrase to turn. But yeah, so Mesque un club. That's where we are. Americans playing for a Serie B promotion for Venezia, yes. Busio and Tanner Tessman. Great at marketing, and let's see if they can turn things around. Because as Nick will tell you, when you are in Serie B, the last place you want to be in is Serie B. You don't want that. And as a bit of a heads up from Stephen Goff on another random note here in kickoff this morning, ticket sales for the men's national team versus Colombia, June 8th at Raljon. More than 42,000 in Landover, Maryland for the men's national team in Colombia on June 8th. So very, very cool to see all these numbers rolling through this morning. And the other thing that wanted to get into this morning has to do with Lucas Paquetá. And Lucas Paquetá could be in like worse than serious trouble. Because we talked about spot fixing yesterday. Accused of picking up 4 deliberate yellow cards, each offense carrying a 6-month to a lifetime ban. So and Manchester City has said that they wanted to bring in Paquetá from West Ham. 4 deliberate yellow cards, 6 times 4 is 24. That's 2 seasons. Lifetime times 4 is 4 lifetimes. I don't think that Lucas Paquetá has 4 lifetimes of playing the sport left in him. Former Reading defender Kynan Isaac was hit with a 10-year ban in 2022 for his part in spot fixing following his yellow card in an FA Cup tie. The 4 bookings, Leicester, Villa, Leeds, and Bournemouth, investigated by the FA. They claim 1 or more persons benefited financially. First came under the FA spotlight in August of 23 for breaching betting rules. Denied any wrongdoing in an impassioned social media post. 4 bookings have been doing the rounds on social media. The FA statement involving rules E5 and F3, bingo. The player has been charged with 4 breaches of E5.1. They mentioned the 4 matches. The FA says it's alleged he directly sought to influence the progress, conduct, or any other aspect of or occurrence in these matches by intentionally seeking to receive a card from the referee for improper purpose of affecting the betting market in order for 1 or more persons to profit from betting. Also charged with 2 breaches of F3 in respect to alleged failures to comply pursuant to F2. He has until June 3rd to respond. Wiped out Boubakary Samare before knocking into Dennis Pratt. Lyon then cautioned for a poor challenge from behind on Villa's John McGinn. Pulling back Crescencio Somerville against Leeds, 25 to go. Booking in the opening match at Bournemouth this term is the last of the 4. Got a yellow for a handball in stoppage time. So you can go back and check the videos. And, do not be surprised if the desire to pick him up is gone, 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 involving any kind of a move with Manchester City. So Lucas Paquetá is in some serious-ish, either alleged or otherwise. But, Lucas Paquetá, he's got himself some stuff that he's got to square away. And, it might end up being something akin from 2 years to a lifetime ban for Lucas Paquetá for just goading extra cards here and there. So that's what you're getting into with those folks. So there you go. That's your morning kickoff, and your opening kickoff is what we call the segment, John. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code. For those of you who are watching, however you're watching this morning, whether it is on the YouTubes, the Twitch, or the 280-character app, don't forget, use the QR code there. Use the code SoccerDownHere15 when you go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. They give you 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Housekeeping. There's your scarf for our friends at the Marshall Islands. Thanks to Unc for being a purchaser as well. And this one's getting shipped to Oregon. So I'm thinking that Unc's going to be joining us in hour number 2, unless he wakes up early on most Friday morning, especially leading into a holiday weekend. So That's the scarf to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, helping them build a program from scratch. You can go to their website. You can order it there. I'll ship it from this side of the Atlantic, or you can just reach out. Abby's got a form in the Discord, or you can help out that way. And the funds go to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. I've sent scarves to California, Alabama, Colorado, Texas, and there have been a lot here that have been picked up as well. So you want to help out somebody and grow the game from the ground up, you can pick up the scarf there for the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Download their app, by the way. You can keep posted on everything going on with the Marshall Islands, as we will effort to do so as well when it comes to their growth. Looks like they're trying to come back here in American football season during the college time to continue to be a part of the Marshallese community in the Four Corners up there in Northwest Arkansas. So you can DM me, DM the show, email me, email the show, or go through the website for the Marshall Islands and pay an additional, pay an additional cost for shipping and consider it a donation. But if you're interested, it's $32. And if you want Abby to come and deliver it to you, it's $32. If you want me to ship it, it's $32 plus $5. But you can reach out to the show and hang out and show your support for the Marshall Islands, because it is rare. It is rare that we get to hang out and find out what's going on with all of us. And also rare to build something from the ground up. So that's the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. You can help them out as well. And just when you thought you were out above the broken news, the news continues to at least be exclusives and try and break your way into your rundown. From The Guardian, Manchester United have decided to sack Erik ten Hag regardless of the final outcome of the FA Cup. I know that comes as no real surprise. Jacob Steinberg, literally 2 minutes ago. United have decided to sack Erik ten Hag after the FA Cup final. Ten Hag is set to depart after enduring a fraught campaign. That's Jacob Steinberg's words. United finished 8th in the Premier League, lowest finish since 1990. Hopes of qualifying for Europe rest on them beating City at Wembley. A well-placed source said that even winning the cup would not save Ten Hag. Decision to change manager will be the most significant move made by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his allies since Ineos took the minority stake and control of football operations. United have identified Thomas Tuchel, Mauricio Pochettino, Kieran McKenna, Graham Potter, and Thomas Frank as potential replacements. Ten Hag won Carabao Cup, finished third last year. Unable to build on his early work, and many of his signings have not worked out. United declined to comment after being approached by The Guardian. So, add that to the news this morning. And Dell being a Mancunian, a fan of the Mancunians. Ten Hag out, apparently, according to Jacob Steinberg at The Guardian, regardless of outcome this weekend. So just when you thought the breaking news was going to stop being broken, no, I think it's going to be one. I think it's going to be one of those days. I legitimately think it's going to be one of those days. That's just me. So Ten Hag gone, Xavi out, Flick in. Don't know who's going to be Manchester United, but there's going to be a list. Now, De Zerbi is not on that list. I think De Zerbi is heading back to Italy, especially with what we were talking about with Pioli, with the openings that are there. I think he heads back to Serie A. That's just my gut. Dell's wondering why De Zerbi's not on the list, and I think that's why. I think he's looking at going back to Serie A. Although it was really fun to be able to pick his brain when Brighton was here in the last summer, as a part of the summer series, just to kind of hear how, hear his ideas when it comes to coaching and things like that. Very, very cool stuff. So, morning Dell, morning Emilio, morning Abby, and that's the early returns on who's here already. So Emilio says a random thought after what I just said. Spending wisely, is that the same as not wanting to spend? Thinking of Garth right now. Let's see. Spending wisely. Not wanting to spend is just kind of making sure that no one gets into your wallet. I think that spending wisely and not wanting to spend are two different things. They are interconnected, but I think they can be two different things. If you spend wisely, it just means that you're not just kind of sitting there, and I wish I had my wallet with me, where you could sit there and you just dump out your wallet. Oh, hey, look, there's a credit card, and you sit there and, ooh, I want I want what's in the Sharper Image catalog. I'm going to wander into Sharper Image and I'm going to buy this, this, and this. You can still get something akin to what you can get when you walk into Sharper Image. You just don't have to pay Sharper Image prices. So I think there is a difference. There is a difference in spending wisely and not spending. Kind of like, what was it at the end of War Games? Sometimes the best thing is not to play. Yeah, sometimes if the number of players is 0 in tic-tac-toe and you find out that there is no winning combination, then sometimes, yeah, you pull your wallet back. But no, I think that while the two can be interconnected, I think that they can also be mutually exclusive, if that makes any sense. I think that you can spend appropriately. I think that you can find investment. You can find appropriate investment. And I think that goes back to the point that we were discussing when it came to the idea of the distressed asset. And when you have, specifically with the Atlanta United example, you look at bringing in a Tristan Muyumba, you look at him bring a Stian Gregerson. You went to Ligue 2 to do that. You went to the bottom of the table in Turkey to bring in Sabalob Janidze. So it's finding value, and there are folks that spend a lot more time with computer programs and sit there and they look at things and they crunch numbers far better than I do. But I think that not wanting to spend isn't necessarily the same as spending wisely. If you find that value, that's spending wisely. It may take you a while to get there, and you would not be just wanting to spend until you get to that point. But I think that I think while they are interconnected somewhat, they can be mutually exclusive. I think you can have one, the other, or both in this case. So I think that I think Emilio, if that makes a whole lot of sense, if that makes any sense, then I would sit there and say you can spend wisely. You can also not spend and wait for that moment. Just because you got money burning in your pocket, because today's a Friday, we'll talk about paychecks. Just because you get a paycheck doesn't mean that you should go to the fanciest bar in town and get the reservation at 6:30 and pay for overpriced food and small portions. We've all got our favorite restaurants. You get paid today, maybe you go to your favorite restaurant. Maybe it's a pizza joint. You can have yourself a good pizza and not pay, $9 gazillion and have the wait staff be all snooty on you and have to sit there and, I got to pay a 20% tip because they'll remember me the next time I walk in the door. There's just as much value as finding that restaurant, the pub that's got really good pub food. There's just as much value there as there might be in trying to chase after somebody who, when you walk in the door, they look at you funny because you're not wearing a shirt tie combo, or you're not wearing a tie period and you forgot your blazer. And then you get put in the table they put you in is all the way at the back toward the toward the kitchen, one of those kinds of things. So I think you can spend wisely. Does that mean not spending in the interim? Sure. Like I said, just because you might want, just because you're gonna just because there might be a big free agent out there doesn't mean that you can, for a double negative. My mom will be driven crazy because I can hear her. Her ears will be burning here in a second. Just because you don't spend on the expensive thing doesn't mean that the expensive thing is what you could get to satisfy the opening. Like I said, Atlanta United went to Ligue 2 to find Tristan Muyumba and Stian Gregerson. Distressed assets. You don't have to sit there and chase after the big building and go, oh yeah, let's go here and chase after this. You don't have to do that. It's all about spending wisely. Just because Indiana Jones went into the room with the guard, and you're trying to find the right chalice. Sometimes the chalice is just a plain old chalice. It's not the one that's got all the shiny jewels and everything on it. Nothing like economics. Time to catch up with our mogul in training and find out what's going on with economics and everything else going on in his brain. We'll find out what's going on with Michael Parkhurst as I sit here and kill time trying to find the open to the segment that I'm trying to find. Here we go. Finally found it. Cap, I don't know. It's one of those Fridays. You're sitting there and you're trying to figure out, okay, because I've got like a bunch of drops and a bunch of things that are attached to like show segment opens and things like that. And they've got a bunch of sound effects and everything. And it's like, okay, where's my open? Oh, yeah, it's all the way at the top. It's not down at the bottom where, you're trying to sit there and, come up with things that are like, oh, let's just to give you an idea as to what I've got here. And I know you're sitting there going, what is he talking about? Stuff like that. That's there when it's appropriate, but that's at the bottom of the scale. And I'm like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Those kinds of things.
Well, feel free to play any type of music when I come on, John. It doesn't matter.
Well, no, it needs to be the right kind of music. I mean, if you're playing the right kind of football. Little American, little Atlanta rhythm section for you in the morning, just whatever applies. But no, the drop for the show opens is in an entirely different place, and I've got to sit there and go, oh crap, where is it?
Tough gig, John. Somebody's got to do it though.
Yes, exactly. If you had walkout music, what would it be? Like everybody's got the walk-up music, in baseball and everything like that. If you had your walk-up music, what would it be?
That's a great question because I've never been a huge music person. I've been to maybe 2 concerts in my life.
Seriously? What?
Yeah. And they asked me what they wanted me for a walk-up or walk-out song when I did the Golden Spike. And I was like, I had to ask my kids. I was like, guys, what do I say here? So I don't know, John. Not 100% sure, honestly.
You've only been to 2 concerts in your entire life, maybe?
Yeah, I think. Well, actually, I went to one in Atlanta. That was the best one I've ever been to. It was, oh God.
One of the best concerts. And who was it? Oh God.
Yeah. Oh, it'll come to me. He's a legend. Golly. Elton John.
Okay. All right. I've heard of him. I have heard of this Reginald Dwight person. I know of whom you speak. Yes.
Good morning, Abby. Good morning, Del.
Del is somewhat basking still in the glow of the Rhode Island and Charleston matchup, and then he gets flipped around with what happens in the Open Cup. When it comes to these kinds of competitions, how are you about outside competitions outside of the purview of the actual season? How are you about winning other trophies during a school year?
Yeah, I'm torn about it, John, to be completely honest. For me, when we were playing Open Cup and even Leagues Cup and stuff like that, Open Cup's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Because Leagues Cup, it was like, man, if you don't go 100%, you could get really embarrassed here.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want that to occur. Open Cup, for me, I did not love playing in the early rounds of these games because for me, it felt like a no-win as a defender.
Yeah.
You go out there and you shut out Charleston, and it's like, well, you're supposed to shut out Charleston. Well, it's not that easy. And if you give up a goal, you look like, hey, what the heck? You can't shut out somebody in the lower division, It's like, and these games are always way tougher than you think. And so I didn't love it, honestly. Obviously when you get later in the rounds, it's more exciting. But the early round games, and I rarely got to sit, I feel like. So
you rarely got to sit in the early rounds of Open Cup games.
Yeah, I remember playing a bunch of them. And the biggest pet peeve I have with Open Cup, and I've said it for 10 years plus,
Okay.
I do not understand why the early rounds don't go straight to penalty kicks. There's no reason to play an extra 30 minutes on a midweek day. It's usually hot. Like, if it can't get settled in 90, just go to penalties. I don't understand it.
I get it completely from a player standpoint, because you're already in the rhythm of the season and you're having to duck out, play an Open Cup game against a lower division opponent. No offense, and it's like I'm busy, man.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it benefits the lower side teams anyways, right? Like, hey, let's go. You held an MLS team, over 90 minutes. Then hey, get your shot at penalty kicks. Like they've got weekend games too. Their travel's tougher than MLS now that there's charters for MLS teams. Like, let's just get to it here. That I'll never understand that until they change it.
So when it comes to being an MLS athlete, having to deal with Open Cup, how much of a pain in the what is it having to budget your time in the first place and make sure that you're as healthy and can be called on and all these kinds of things? How difficult is that to navigate in season with all of the responsibilities that are there with the first team and the first division, and then having to sit there and figure out, oh crap, I've got a midweek game? How difficult is that to manage?
For some guys, a little bit more than others, and I think it just comes down to motivation and mentality, right? Some guys, it's like, hey, I got another game. It doesn't matter who I'm playing against. I'm going to go there and do my thing, and it doesn't matter if it's Miami MLS team or Miami USL team. Like, I'm just going to go play my game, and I have to show up and play, and so I'm going to do that. And for other guys, it's more challenging than that, and age comes into it a little bit, and it's a good opportunity for younger guys for sure to get opportunities to play, and so there's a huge benefit to Open Cup. I'm not saying MLS teams shouldn't participate, because I think they should.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely a wide range of outlooks towards those tournaments. But when you get to like where it is now, you say, hey, let's go win the thing.
When it comes to, and the reason I ask managing your time and trying to stay as physically fit as possible, when you have discussions with your mentees, how do you discuss making sure that they are as sharp as possible, that they're not overextending, that they're making sure that priorities are in a certain direction, understanding that priorities may widen over a period of time? Do you have these kinds of discussions about priorities and making sure that you've got your head screwed on straight with your mentees?
Yeah, definitely. It's a big one. And I think that there's a couple little things there. One, I think that we always say that if you're not looking forward to going to practice, or you're not looking forward to going to a game, like that's when you know that you need a break, because it's got to be the highlight of the day. And if it's not, then hey, maybe you need a small break, or make sure that you're taking every break possible to get away from it, because that's what cures it usually. Getting away, and you realize how much you miss it, and you can't wait to get back out there, even if it's a day or two. And then I think that I just lost my train of thought. There was getting away from the game.
Making sure that mentees understand that, if you're getting to that point to where it turns into just a dredge, if your mentees are just kind of over it, stepping away for a day or two, if practice is part of the joy of it, that if you're really hitting a wall, stepping away for a day or two can help you with that process going forward to regain your love and admiration for what you're out there for.
Yeah, and that's it. It comes down to love, right? If you're not loving it, then hey, something's wrong here, and it needs to be addressed. And sometimes it's time away. And I think that that's really tough for athletes to understand sometimes, right? How am I going to get better? How am I going to get out of a rut? How am I going to love it more if I get away from it? You know, that's why I'll never understand why, you know, fans give guys a hard time sometimes for, you know, not practicing every day, not doing this all the time. It's like, well, sometimes, you know, you take a step back to take 2 steps forward. It's important.
When did you take a step back to 2 forward? When did you understand that that was an important thing for you?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm not 100% sure I remember a specific moment,
Yeah.
but I do know that when I was allotted time off, right, where it was like 4 days during the season, you know, because there's always one, you know, you've got an off weekend or, you know, there's a break for a tournament or whatever it is. And if they're going to give you 4 days, then hey, I'm going to take my 4 days and I'm not going to touch a soccer ball. And I might not even watch a soccer game. You know, I might go for a run or two in those 4 days, but other than that, I'm not going to do anything. And I'm not going to feel bad about it either, because I'm not going to lose much in 4 days. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to be rearing to go and fresh. And I think that that's important in the long run. You know, I think that's why these built-in little weekends off or few days off that you can get from a coach, that's why an off day per week is so important. It's not just physically, it's mentally too. And especially the older you get, you know, the younger athletes, they can have endless energy sometimes, which is great. But for those that do need that mental break, I think that becomes really important.
Like playing a round of golf, you know, as you've been known to do these days. But then let me ask you this. When it comes to your experience in and around younger professional athletes or mentees, is there a fear of being further behind if they take that time off, especially early in a career or early in a sport? Because, you know, like if I take time off, then somebody's advancing that much further ahead of me than I would if I'm not taking the day off. And then you get into that vicious cycle. Is there that pressure? Do you notice that pressure there to try and stay, you know, with the Joneses or whatever with the younger players?
Yeah, for sure. And there's such a balance, John, with what your situation is. You know, and I guess I'm just looking at it as a pro.
Yeah.
You know, I was playing all the games right away, and so, you know, there were guys my age when we got days off. They wanted to go out and do stuff because they weren't having the opportunities that I had. They weren't as physically and mentally spent because I was, you know, being counted on from the get-go, and they weren't, right? So they wanted to continue to improve and get better on these days off and push things, where I was okay saying, no, I need a day. I'm good. So it's really situationally dependent, because like you hear stories of guys like Ronaldo who rarely take a day off, right? Always pushing, always there. He's a rare example, sort of like Tiger Woods back in his heyday. Those are rarities. But I do think that, you know, if you're a younger athlete trying to break through, right, if you haven't gotten to that point where, you know, you're mentally and physically drained, then yeah, it's okay to keep pushing and pushing. Because yeah, you do need to get some extra time that some other guys don't need in that moment.
And you find your limits, I would imagine. It's like if you thought that you'd pushed yourself to 100% and you still think that there's something there, you can push through that gap that exists, that line that exists. And it's like, oh, okay, I can tolerate more. I can push myself that much further. I can push myself past this point and this point and this point to find out what 100% really is, as opposed to what you thought it was leading into that, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that 100% is ever changing, depending on the day, the situation, what's going on, right? Your body's capable of a lot more than you think sometimes. And, you know, we need to push it sometimes to see what it is capable of.
When you were a pro, was there 125th minute adventure where you're like, oh, okay, I had more in me than I thought, where you were forced to challenge yourself and you pushed through it and you realized more about yourself and what you had in you than you thought you had previously? Was there a first time for that, or was that something you're like, oh, okay, I can handle this?
Yeah, I think that I was asked to play a D mid for a game with the Revolution, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be a lot more running. I'm not sure I can handle that. And like I was able to obviously do it and get through it and everything. And I think I came out of that thinking like, hey, you know what, I can do that. When I played outside back in Denmark, that was a change for me where it was like, okay, there's a lot different fitness out here. There's a lot more. I'm going to have to be pushed a lot harder. And I thought I was relatively fit. I've never been the fittest guy on any team. But yeah, I needed to push myself a lot more when I was at outside back and realize, okay, I can get to another level fitness wise.
Do your mentees, have you been in a moment with a mentee where a mentee has pushed themselves past that limit and understood the new limit and what it's like to come out the other side? Or are they still trying to learn what that limit is and haven't had those moments yet?
I haven't yet. And I do talk about fitness a lot I bring it up every time with every mentee because I think in general, players are not as fit as they need to be.
Huh.
I think that and that's one thing that we can control, and it's one thing that it can be a real advantage out there. So but every kid thinks they're fit. So,
so do some adults.
Yeah, well, not this guy.
Not me either, brother. I know I'm not. You mentioned fitness. Is that one of the it seems like to me it's one of the major things for someone who is not the athlete like you, the professional athlete. I just stuck mics in your faces, and I was nowhere close to being the professional athlete and conditioning that you were in. When it comes to your mentees and teenagers and those of generations that are younger, what is their stance on fitness? Do they understand that it's something that they've got to get through, and they understand it's part of the gig? Do they look forward to challenging themselves and being as fit as possible? Is it a dredge? Do they care? Do they want to throw it in the garbage and not want to think about it, and they just go out there and do it? How do they view fitness as a part of the full picture?
I think most of the ones that I've had conversations about just view it like either one, they're pretty naturally fit and don't mind it.
Wait till they hit 30.
Yeah, wait till they hit 20. Mm-hmm. Or they do it because they know they have to. There's very few who actually enjoy fitness and like don't mind doing it and all that. And that's fine. I didn't enjoy it. And like I said, I was not a fitness guru, and it wasn't one of my strengths. But I do feel like it can be a strength, and when it is, it's really valuable, especially for different positions you play. As a center back, it wasn't hugely important, right? But as a D mid or a winger, a number 10, an outside back, right? You watch Brooks Lennon play, and it's like this guy's just sprinting around for fun, and it's an asset. And he's not getting tired in the 70th minute, things like that. It's impressive, and it's something that's totally within our control.
So you mentioned that when it comes to fitness and all of that, what about being mentally fit and emotionally fit? Because we can all sit here and be, as physically fit as humanly possible. We could be Brooks or Bartos Slish or Saba and run 7 or 8 miles and do that in a match day and then do that again the next match day. But what about the idea of being just as fit mentally and having the 3-dimensional thought processes about everything going on around you and understanding the game and understanding where you need to be? And then obviously emotional fitness as well, and not making your emotions take over for you in situations like that? What about those other kinds of fitness, not just the running part?
Yeah, it's equally as important, right? And it can be an asset, and it can help you with the energy wise. You know, I talk about the roller coaster of emotions and how to try and find that even keel, right? With small mini roller coasters. You know, you want to ride the kitty roller coasters. You don't want to ride the big boy roller coasters of emotions. That is. And you know, if we're able to do that, it keeps us so much calmer in the head, especially within a game, but even game to game as well. That's where I felt like I did most of my work, John. That way I could do less of the physical running part. I was, you know, in my brain, I was doing a lot so that I could cut down on the things I had to do with my feet.
Well, I mean, because I would think that it's almost like defensive driving, for lack of a better phrase. Because if you're out there, if we're out there driving in a car and we're out there thinking like everyone else around us, we're not going to get into that car crash. And we understand, okay, dude's not using his blinker. He's going to come over here in this lane and anticipate that. Same thing I would imagine when you're out there as an athlete. If you can treat it almost like defensive driving and anticipate and think, okay, if, you know, my teammate to my right is going to step forward, I've got to stay back. You know, if they know that I can go forward, they've got to be back. You've got to think for yourself and everyone else. And that takes time, I would think, to get to where you're comfortable in your athletic defensive driving, for lack of a better phrase.
For sure. And a lot of that comes with experience and reading the game and being in these situations. And that's one of the things that Greg and I are going to be trying to teach through this video library, is like pointing these things out so that, you know, they can get this understanding of this knowledge of like these little things that happen throughout every game and every play. And they're so small that they sometimes go unnoticed, but these small little differences are the big difference between creating a chance and not creating a chance, or giving up a chance and not, and little things like that. And that's what I made a career off of. Like a lot of my stuff just, you know, didn't, you know, obviously I made the play because I was in the right spot. Well, I was only in the right spot because I read it and I saw that play 1,000 times and I knew what was going to happen. And so that's why I made it look easy. But then I watch other guys and I'm like, how do they not see it? Like, what are they looking at? Right. These things. And so, yeah, that's what we're trying to do with this video library, of like point out these little things that guys do on the field and why it's important.
Yeah, I remember a play in particular that where you came in from behind and there was a slide tackle that created an opportunity, that created a short field for a particular goal, where you ended up winning a championship by the end of the 90 minutes. I remember that kind of anticipation. Video library. I'm glad you brought that up. How deep are we talking about here? When you're trying to assemble something like this, what are you trying to do? Is it snippets by category? Is it situations with the, you know, events that folks know? When you're trying to approach putting this together, what's going into the thought process here?
Yeah, and we're trying to figure that out. And I think right now we're leaning in towards the snippets. So like minute and a half clip of a certain play, voiced over with, okay, this is what's happening, this is what we see, this is what's going on. And so it's filterable, right? You go in there and you say, hey, I'm an outside back. I want to see offensive clips, or I want to see defensive clips, and I want to see how to make a cross or deal with a cross, or, you know, I want to see striker runs or things like that. And then there's just a library of, you know, these types of things. So that's kind of the thought. And then progress it from there, where it's like, okay, here's multiple clips together, and here, see the difference between these two situations that are very similar.
Yeah. So I would think that while it sounds fun, because you can sit there and literally lay out by situation and situation. It's like, okay, trying to close out a match, 20 minutes to go. You've got this. Trying to sit there and establish your situation in the first quarter pole, those kinds of things. I would imagine that when you're trying to piece this together, it's like you'll go down a road, then you'll sit there and you'll open up how about this? And you go over here, and then you open up all of these different things. I imagine it's fun to piece it together, but then you sit there and you go, man, we really did open up a bunch of different doors and piecing this thing together.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that point for sure. Because right now I'm just, every game that I watch, it's like, oh, I just try and clip clip a few different things from each game and little moments and things. And so, and it's really nice because Apple TV, you can actually screen record versus, if you're watching something on YouTube TV, they've got the technology where if you go to screen record, your screen goes black.
Yeah.
Smart people.
Yes. Smart people.
But Apple doesn't seem to care. So that allows us to screen record things from MLS games, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that we, want to violate any copyrights or anything like that or get in any kind of trouble. No.
Nah, we're not doing that.
Okay. A couple of more minutes with you. Questions from the peoples, because they have questions. Abby wants to know if your kids are out of school yet.
Yes, they are. Wednesday was the last day.
I just have this Thursday morning. I imagine it's just like the noise stomping through the house at an incredibly early hour. They're used to getting up and getting out the door and hitting the bus or getting into the car and going to school. But all it is stomping around the house now. And you're sitting there going, oh, man.
I, as the nice father I am, signed my daughter up for 8 a.m. physical therapy on Thursday morning. So, yes, her first day of summer vacation, she was up at 7 to get to PT, and she was thrilled about
it. Thoughts on Open Cup and the lack of first-team participants?
First-team participants meaning like players on the first team playing?
Yeah, the players on the first team and the current setup, the way that things are with Open Cup, where roster or managers will sit there and they'll put a lot of second-teamers in as opposed to having first-teamers in a midweek match.
I have no problem with it. I think that just because they do that doesn't mean that we don't care to win the game. Right. Yeah. I think we're looking at it like, hey, these guys should be good enough to go win this game. Otherwise, why are they on an MLS team? Why are they on an MLS contract? So, like I said, those opportunities are important. You have to get experience, because it's difficult. Take a guy like Morales or Cobb, right? These guys, they can't get first team experience. You can't just throw them in an MLS game without any experience. Like, it's really, really tough. That's where these Open Cup games become so valuable for younger players, especially. And they need to figure it out, and they need to do it quick because they need to know that, hey, there's a level and there's an expectation. I don't care if it's 10 guys that aren't normally the first team players or what. They still need to win the game.
Okay, and then Abby takes it to the next stage. What if you just put in your second teams putting in their second teams as a whole and not a mix of first and just putting in their second teams on the whole? If you just went ahead and did that.
Yeah. I don't like that. I don't like New York City right now has got and it's weird this year because there's MLS Next Pro teams.
Right.
I don't like that. You can put in your New York City team and have a couple guys that's within your first team and, bring up some guys and have a mixture and things. But I don't think it should be MLS Next Pro teams.
And Abby asking, you want PKs until you get to the quarters, or when would you go?
I'd go semis, honestly.
Okay.
I'd go to semis. Semis, okay, you can play an extra 30, but up until then.
Because of schedule compression and 9 matches in 30 days if you're Atlanta United, or 6 in 21 that you're going to have in July leading into Leagues Cup. That's no bueno.
Yeah, exactly.
Last question, and this goes to the mogul. Dell, by the way, loves your lid, as you should, because the lid that you're sporting, that is strong. What did you think?
I got some new ones, I heard, so I got to get my hands on something.
You got new ones? Okay, cool. Yeah. What do you think of Ben Olsen's comments about the gap between MLS and USL, and what is the opinion? And this was after the keeper-on-keeper crime that happened when they lost like 10-9 in the shootout to Detroit City.
Mm-hmm.
And Olsen, and I got the quote, Ben Olsen goes, yeah, it's a second division, and it's not even close. As you go through these tournaments, you mix up the team a little bit, and that can be the difference. That can end up equalizing games. There's no excuse. It was just a tough night, and the way we gave up 3 goals wasn't good enough. Really gutsy performance. We got knocked out of the Open Cup. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I thought they were terrible comments. I think that everyone knows there's a gap between MLS and USL.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be said. And that doesn't mean that USL Championship teams can't beat MLS teams, because anybody can beat anybody on any given day. It can happen, no doubt about it. It's especially strange to say that after you just lost to one. So I think that he was just bitter and upset, and I didn't like the comments at all, because it didn't need to be said, and it's like even though there's a gap, I'll tell you, there's plenty of guys that I've seen in championship that could be on MLS rosters.
You go to Sacramento, you go to Charleston, you got two teams right now that have a 0 in that loss column as they've played 10 or 11 matches so far this season. And Sacramento right now, everything in the West and Open Cup goes through Hard Health Park. And they have really built really well in Sacramento. And there are a lot of guys that could be in Major League Soccer if that was the path that they were open to.
Yep.
All right, so we've gone overtime because the fourth is holding up the light board. What do folks need to know about Rhode Island FC, the new gear, anything else? Beyond Goals, hit me.
Beyond Goals, been quiet right now, just working on things in the back end for future. And then Rhode Island FC, we have a big one against Louisville tomorrow, 4:00 game, so afternoon. So I'll be able to watch at Atlanta United in the evening. I got Rhode Island in the afternoon. I got a Little League baseball game, so I got to be busy. But it'll be a fun weekend.
No doubt about it. And it's always great to have you and Greg on, where we can let everybody know what's going on with Beyond Goals and get your thoughts about being a mentor and the state of the game and everything that's attached to it. Go spend the rest of your Friday, because I know your weekend's full. Thanks for coming on as always.
Appreciate it, John. Everybody have a great weekend.
There we go. And there goes Cap. And Michael's going to go on to the rest of his day. Dell wants him to beat Louisville and slap Danny Cruz. Danny Cruz really should be in line for an MLS kick. Hour number 2. And pinch hitting for Jason is Nick. Jason, because he's going to be on 92.9 in the Odyssey app starting at 11 o'clock with the midday guys. Schedule compression hit Jason. And so Nick has stormed the gates and is coming in this morning.
I'm sorry, everyone. I know you expected better on your Friday.
So Dell's like, "Oh, you're here to talk Venezia and Serie B."
Yeah, we can talk about whatever, man. We can talk about whatever. I know that there are a lot of people who give Venezia grief. I'm not one of them. I'm not mad at what they're doing.
The marketing geniuses that are Venezia, they've got great gear, and it looks like they're this much closer to getting back to Serie A. And morning, Andy. We know it's out there on the West Coast. It is now 7 o'clock, and so Andy from the Orange and Black Brigade, our friends at Orange County, Andy's dropping in this morning. We talked about the breaking news in hour number 1. Pioli gone, Xavi gone, Ten Hag looking like he will be gone. So coaching changes. The coaching carousel is hitting 78 RPMs on the turntable in short order this morning.
Well, let's go ahead and start with Pioli. You have a former Scudetto winner who's being shown the door, despite with Milan. It's not like they had a horrible season. They're second in the table.
Yes.
But everyone was, Inter boat raced everyone this year, right? They finished the season with 93 points. Milan second at 74. Okay. Bologna, with the future Juve coach in Motta, sitting at 68.
Yeah.
It's a little, this is one of those things where it was perception really killed Pioli's career at Milan, especially this season. It wasn't like they were, a disaster zone, but they gave up losses to teams that they shouldn't. It should be closer. You're not going to get 93. I don't even think you're getting 85. I just think that there were games that Pioli's tactics, his substitution cycle, it just didn't really work, and it caused some problems for them. Injuries didn't help. There was a poor run of form mid-season that didn't help them at all. And Milan seems to think they can do better. I wish whoever comes in to follow this this group, follow Pioli, I wish him luck. But I don't know how that's really going to work long term. If you bring in Fonseca, we know what he can do in Serie A. He it's not the worst decision in the world, but they've had a lot of names, and the way that they did Pioli at the end is what really concerns me more than anything. The guy won your Scudetto when you probably had no business, winning one. And I'm saying this as a Milan supporter,
right?
He came in at a time when Milan was a joke and really helped stabilize things. And he's an Interista. He's Interista, and he had, there were questions about him coming in. He proved all the doubters wrong. It took him a little while to get the tactics lined up for this squad because there were so many holes across the board. You couldn't run your 4-3-3. You had to switch up 4-2-3-1, and then almost every formation in between. But he brought a level of stability to this club, and that he's getting shown the door in such an unceremonious manner with the weeks leading up to this. Every available manager's name was trotted out as the next future Milan manager. Milan's negotiating with this guy. Milan's negotiating with that guy. Milan wants this guy. And Pioli just kind of went about his work and went about his business. So I say with a level of gratitude, thank you. Thank you for bringing stability to a club that was in joke phase, pure banter era. And, I wish him the best, the infamous words of the Godfather, as long as our interests don't, go against each other, I wish you all the luck in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Ten Hag goes, I want to, this is something that I've said before, and I think it's important to trot out again. And that is that the culture of Ajax is done. It's a wrap. You can't export it. I think we need to stop trying to export Ajax culture. It's not happening anymore. A lot of people have tried it. There have only been largely two successful implementations of it, and that has been Barcelona and Man City as the only two places that have been able to incorporate the Ajax roughly the style of play and have it work. And that's because you had managers with enough the sort of the cult of personality to implement it. Ten Hag, whether it's Frank de Boer, Ten Hag, any of these other guys, at some level it fails because you're trying to teach guys who are, in their early to mid 20s, something that was taught at Ajax since somebody was like 8.
Yeah.
And it's not a part of their culture. And so I think it's time to stop that mess. And it also goes back to Man United of who the hell do you want to be? You have to move on from the ghost of Sir Alex Ferguson. And yes, Sir Alex Ferguson is still alive and well, but his managerial ghost is still on the sideline. And as long as Man United believes that, this person's not Alex Ferguson, great.
Rawr.
No one is. And, Alabama's going to have to figure out how to do the same thing with the ghost of Nick Saban on the sideline. And New England's going to have to do the same thing with the ghost of Bill Belichick. It's the idea that you can have the singular leader be sort of the standard to which you hold every future manager is asinine. It's something that, you're allowing nostalgia to really cripple, the way that you do business. Does Ten Hag deserve another year? I think that's up for debate. But one thing I do think needs to happen going forward, clubs need to stop trying to implement this Ajax style of play and figure out how to develop your own players in your own system, in your own style of play, and let the Dutch be the Dutch. And you see this happening now with Barcelona. Hansi Flick's not coming in to run the traditional Barcelona style.
Oh no.
I mean, he's not doing that. So it's a culture shift in a lot of different places now. And so I want to see who starts developing academy kids. If you're talking about trying to save money and increase margins in this this time and day, well, start developing your academies. Stop shipping your players out way beforehand to try to get the quick little payday, and start putting a sustainable product on the field. And the only way to do that is to build up through the academy, and not engage in stupid, $70, $80 million transfers.
Oh no, we can't have that though. But that was part of the discussion we were having early in hour number one about is spending wisely the same as not spending? And I said that you can treat them separately. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive. I know that you can link them, but they're not necessarily forever linked. They can be mutually exclusive, but you can look at it both ways. But just because you're not spending doesn't mean that you're not spending, period. It means that you're spending wiser or more wisely than you have in the past.
Right. And, previously, and going back to the 80s, the 80s and 90s, you had teams that were largely built over time. Mm-hmm. And then if you did break the bank, it was for a singular player who you believed could get you to the top, who could put you over, in the Scudetto race or in the Champions League or something. And, the list of players who can do that for you nowadays, it's extraordinarily thin. Mm-hmm. Because nowadays you have, these teams that go out and they spend insane amounts of money on players that, do they really rate the valuation? Right? I mean, our valuation of players is completely skewed. Mm-hmm. And, we keep hearing teams like Milan say, well, we're trying to do this on a budget. We're trying to, save money here, save money there. Okay, great. So start bringing kids up from the Primavera. That's what you have to do. And fans are going to have to start learning that, we're not in the top four. Great. You have a super young team. Well, we're going to fire the manager. Do you? Or do you give them a little bit of time with the kids to try to create something that's sustainable? Yeah. It's up to you, but the Primavera squad, it's the academy. It's the academy. That's what they call it, the Primavera. So it's sort of like, that's the academy that in Italy. So you've got to be able to bring up the kids, because there's no transfer valuation with the kids, right? Yep. You don't have to pay $40 million plus commission.
Yes.
Which is the key. Yes. And so it's a free transfer. No, it's not. You still have to pay significant commission fees to the agent.
Yes.
So
the agent wins in the situation.
But let's look at Barcelona. Barcelona had the greatest academy in the world, right? Mm-hmm. They churned out star after star after star. And then one day they said, we're going to get into the transfer game, because they were trying to keep up with Real Madrid. And Real Madrid played Cold War economics against, if you look at Barcelona like the Soviet Union, and you look at Real Madrid like America, mm-hmm. America said, we're just going to spend Russia into oblivion, because they can't beat us spending. So why buy one tank when you can buy 100? We're just gonna spend so much money. They're gonna try to keep up. They'll fail miserably.
Because when you print more money, all it does is devalue your currency.
And so what happened, right? That's exactly what happened. We spent Russia into oblivion. They couldn't keep up with the defense spending. And look at what Real Madrid did. Real Madrid kept buying star after star after star, and Barcelona, they had a couple of hiccups and said, oh, we got to play their game. And they kept spending and spending and spending, and having stars that they spent like 80 million on that sat on the bench.
Yeah.
And what happened to your academy?
Boom.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Academy died on the vine, man.
Yeah.
So my hope is that Hansi Flick starts valuing the academy again, and they start developing players. I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah.
my hope is that Ajax kind of, starts figuring out they got an Italian running their team now, which is mind bending to me. But okay, great. We are at a transition point in the world game where all these styles, these teams that were known for a particular style, it's all shifting. And I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think the nostalgia crew is going to have to get over it. And I think that a lot of the talk shows are going to have to get over it. This isn't the way that we play here. No, I'm sorry. It is now. Deal with it.
Yeah. So do you want to evolve, or do you want to wither on the vine? That's the question. When it comes to that kind of stuff.
The gravity of success. We've talked about the gravity of success many, many, many times on this show.
Mm-hmm. Gareth O'Sullivan, the principal for Decatur FC, coming on bottom of the hour to talk about WPSL and the beginning of the beginning for Decatur FC. It's their first ever match tonight at Decatur High School. So Gareth will be dropping in bottom of the hour. But we do have an important piece of business. It is that time of the week where we do the weekend whip around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. We'll spend about 15 minutes on it. When Gareth comes in, we'll put a bookmark in it and pick it back up on the other side. We got to talk about Atlanta and LAFC. We got to talk about everything else going on in Major League Soccer. So, Nick, since you are here now, I will leave it up to you. Do you want to start the discussion with Atlanta United and LAFC, or do you want to run through the juice boxes of everything else and postpone Atlanta and LAFC to the end of the show?
Let's just go through the juice boxes.
Okay.
And because if we get on a run with Atlanta United, I don't want to stop it.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. I don't know if Gareth will remember me or not, but Gareth was the first manager for the Atlanta Beat for WPS, right?
Yeah.
And so Gareth and I spent a great mini evening post game up at Zuka's in Kennesaw. And so I was the game day producer and he was the head coach. And so after each game, the players for both teams would end up at Zuka's, and you could go up there for meet and greets and whatnot. So Gareth always very kind and friendly and generous with his time in what was a very tough season.
Yep. All right. So what we'll do is we'll do juice boxes for everything else, and we will bookmark Atlanta United and LAFC until after the Gareth O'Sullivan conversation. 7:30 kicks. CF Montreal hosting Nashville. CF Montreal is favored at home at Stade Saputo at a +152. Nashville on the road, still with the interim manager, is at a +170. Your draw is a +244.
Ooh.
Nick is intrigued.
I am intrigued by this. Give me those numbers again.
CF Montreal a +152.
Mm-hmm.
Nashville's a +170, and your draw is a +244.
I'm going to. I will take Nashville. I'm going to take Nashville on this one. And the reason being is if you look at the goals, like especially the goals given up, Montreal's having some problems giving up goals.
Yep.
They've given up like 31 goals. That is an issue. Nashville's given up 20.
Yeah.
That's basic math to me.
Yeah.
So I think if Nashville, if Mukhtar, I think Mukhtar gets one and then they just bunker for dear life and Montreal's not able to do anything about it. Same number of goals forced.
Yes.
For both teams at 17. However, that 31, man, I don't like it.
Yep. Also at 7:30, Charlotte hosting Philadelphia Union. Charlotte at home is favored at a +145. Your draw is a +177. Draw is a +248. Andre Blake now under contract through 2027. That was announced this week.
I'll take Philadelphia.
Okay. DC and Chicago. DC heavy favorite on the minus side at a -161. Chicago a +375 on the road, and your draw is a +337 in the composite.
The numbers don't back this up, but I'm going to take the draw.
Okay. Revs hosting NYCFC. The Revs are favored at home. The dumpster fire that is an insult to dumpsters is a +152. NYC on the road is a +164, and your draw is a +254. Are you blanking kidding me with this?
Vegas knows something.
Yeah.
That I'm staying away from that game. I don't touch it.
Yeah.
I don't touch it. There's something that smells really bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
do not touch.
Yeah, your key for gambling is if it looks like a bomb, it's a bomb. Don't touch it.
If it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
In the infamous words of Baron Harkonnen, "When is a gift not a gift?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is not a gift.
No, purple team hosting Columbus. Orlando City is favored at a +104. Draws a +265. Crew is a +242.
I'll take Columbus.
Toronto hosting FC Cincinnati. Toronto at home is a +183. FC Cincinnati is a +142 on the road, and Toronto draws a +246.
Cincinnati.
FC Dallas at home hosting RSL. RSL is favored on the road at a +143. Draws a +243. FCD, coming off of the madness that was the matchup against Tampa Bay in Open Cup in the midweek, is a +184.
I mean, I think you have to take Salt Lake on that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't think, you've got Martin Peiss, who stood on his head, had 8 saves on 30 shots, and I think both of those numbers are being kind.
Right.
You're having to turn around to play at home against RSL on the weekend. Fix your fantasy team, fix your fantasy team, fix your fantasy team, and perhaps you should probably captain Chicho Arango. That's just me.
Yeah, probably.
All caps hosting Seattle. St. Louis City SC is a +102 favored against a Seattle side that Nico Moreno, as he said yesterday, he's not necessarily all that keen on right now on the road. Seattle on the road's a +250. Your draw's a +258.
This is an interesting one, right? This is an interesting one. The city, you know, the dog chow.
Mm-hmm.
They got Purina on their jersey, do they not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got the dog chow. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis dog chow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're about even. They got 19 goals forced, 20 allowed. Seattle 16 and 17. Look, this to me screams draw.
Yeah.
And not in a fun draw either. This looks like a draw that's going to set the game back 20 years. There's going to be nothing fun about this game. In my humble opinion, Dog Chow versus the Sounders. This is an ugly draw. I'm not watching it. I'm not putting money on it. I'm walking away from it.
Well, no, because you're going to be watching another match at 7:30, I would imagine, in some form or fashion. 9:30 Eastern time, Colorado and the Rabid Prairie Dogs are hosting Minnesota United. Colorado favored on the minus side at a -103. Minnesota United a +243, and your draws a +290.
Can we talk a minute about how we were all wrong about Minnesota?
Sure.
We all of us, and I'm not going to sit here and be like the 4-letter network where the prognosticators have this idea that they were, sent from, down the mountain with stone tablets and as such can never be questioned.
15 crash, 10 commandments.
That's right. And on this show, because this is America,
Merc,
and we admit sometimes when we're wrong.
Correct.
At least that's I only speak for myself on that. In this case, everyone else admits they're wrong freely. I do not. But I will say that I was completely wrong about Minnesota. They were a running joke in the offseason.
Absolutely.
Right? Oh my God. They're doing everything wrong. They're not doing it. What is going on with this general manager? He's doing things from overseas on the phone.
Yeah.
They can't keep any coaches in-house. They have no academy. Oh my God. It's all a disaster zone. And they're second in the West.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we have access to microphones and the ability to drone on for lengthy periods of time.
Correct.
Outside of that, we are as fallible as anyone else. So I was dead ass wrong about Minnesota. I would have expected them to be at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
I would have expected them to be a laughingstock. They are, I mean, you're talking about they've scored 21 goals. They've allowed only 14. I mean, there's one team in the West that's better than them, and that is the Houston Dynamo, because Ben Olsen, we all know how he plays.
Yes, that is true.
But I mean, you got Real Salt Lake with only allowing 14 goals. Minnesota's allowing only 14 goals. My boy Sartini up in Vancouver's only allowed 15. Then Houston at 13. Why do I keep quoting the defensive numbers? Because, I mean, you got to keep the opponent from scoring, right? I mean, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to be an absolute joke. And not only can they defend, they are scoring, which is terrifying. Way to go, Minnesota. Way to go on proving us all wrong.
Yeah.
And Dell nailed it. All this despite the Reynoso circus.
Yeah.
And I mean, good for them. Way to go for proving everyone wrong.
Yeah. You got a young coach who's got a roster in transition, and he is sitting Timu Pukki, and he wants to do things with youth and speed and pressure, and it's all working out for him so far. So, I mean, Eric Ramsey, to be perfectly honest, probably should be getting Coach of the Year consideration, even if not being there since the absolute beginning of the season. You know, when they sack Adrian Heath, they bring in Eric Ramsey. It took a while for Ramsey to come over, but you're seeing what's going on with Eric Ramsey. And, they did get Derek Dodson from Charleston and send him on loan to Birmingham. So Derek Dodson has the chance to turn around and be a pain in the butt to Charleston as a part of the Birmingham Legion. But, all despite Reynoso. And I don't know if folks saw the video this week with Reynoso holding a shopping bag that had stacks of cash in it, and he had a gentleman off his right shoulder who had stacks of cash in hand and was sporting a revolver. That's never.
Look, if you grow up in the wrong kind of neighborhood with the wrong kind of friends, they will get you doing some really, really dumb things. And it doesn't matter if, and I've seen this play out time and again, and I'm not talking like, a lot of what people think with stereotypical, because I grew up in freaking Paulding County. So I'm talking about some pea picking hee-haw mess. And I mean, I'm talking about some drunk ass hillbillies that you would go, like, you talk about people who were going to, like, these nice colleges. They were turning their life around, and then they come home for spring break, and like within 2 days of touchdown, they're right back in these jacked up 4x4s, running and doing the dumbest hillbilly stuff imaginable. You can have friends who can be anchors to you, and it looks like Reynoso has those. As soon as you touch down at home, the stupidity just locks. Your brain goes right back into stupid mode. So, good luck to them. But hey, Minnesota, keep doing what you're doing, baby.
All right, we're going to put a bookmark in the juice boxes right now, because the gentleman that you referenced as a part of your previous relationships and previous lines on your CV is now joining us, and it's time to catch up with Gareth O'Sullivan and find out about Decatur FC. Gareth, good to see you. Nick Alifi is here, part of our normal crew. Nick has parachuted in to hang out, so thanks for coming in for a three-way dance.
Thank you for having me, lads.
Decatur FC, it's a really cool thing that you have been part and parcel to bringing to the table. Does it feel like kickoff is only 8 hours away for the first time ever with this franchise? Does it feel 8 hours away?
It doesn't, but I know it'll be here before we know it. And I know we'll have some bumps on the road, I'm sure, over the course of the day and throughout the game. But I'm excited that it's here and that the community has embraced it.
Nick,
for Gareth, first question on the board for the principal for Decatur FC.
Gareth, it's been a very, very long time, sir. But you and I was the game day producer for the Atlanta Beat way back in the day. So the guy who pretty much ensured that whenever the video board would actually work at Fifth Third Bank Stadium, it was our our little booth that was freaking out, having to deal with everything. This is not the first time you have stepped into a situation where you are starting something from ground up. Can you talk about what your mindset is when it comes to starting a team, getting them off the ground, and building out the operations as a day one team?
I mean, to be honest, getting this process started was one thing, but then waiting and kind of getting our venue organized was the next big step. But seeing the reaction of the community and the soccer community in general over the last, 6 weeks or so has been amazing. I mean, just today, the last hour and a half, there's been another 60 tickets sold. So it's really taken on a life of its own, and which is fantastic. I knew it had the ability to do that based in Decatur, with the Decatur's a soccer crazy community and town. So we really felt like it would have a chance. But yeah, we're supremely excited to kick off tonight and see where the season takes us.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned in this process as you're getting ready for opening night?
There's so many things you have to think of. Last time I was involved, I was on the coaching side, and there's a very different set of check marks that you have to make sure are hit, and it's mainly on the field and your staff and prep for the team, whereas this is a much bigger picture, and I've got some fabulous people. I always try and surround myself with good people, and I've got some great people helping make this happen. And from that point of view, you've Jen and Joel and Megan and Miranda, and especially the city as well with Cara. They've been fantastic, and we even have the mayor coming out tonight to do the kickoff. So it's been a fabulous collaboration, I should say.
Nick, go for it.
As someone who has not only been a coach at all the different levels, from your time at Christian Brothers, and then obviously through the Atlanta Beat, and you have roots here in town, with Tysa, right? And how how to develop players. You talk about surrounding yourself with a good staff. I remember, showing up for games at Tysa and seeing a lot of the familiar faces from the Atlanta Beat days there, coaching kids, and they played an excellent style of ball. When it talks about youth development and how you see youth development feeding in to Decatur, can you talk a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to the progression of the player from the youth stage up to where you guys are talking about playing with Decatur?
Yeah, to be honest, there's a lot of really good clubs around the Decatur area. You've got, obviously, you mentioned Tysa, and you've got Inter Atlanta right there as well. And there's DDY in the heart of Decatur too. So, there's lots of options for people. We really try and focus on individual development and trying to play the right way. And sometimes by ensuring that we play out of the back and go wide to our fullbacks and things like that, by insisting on that type of play, you tend to give up some goals to teams that maybe just high press you and have some speed up front. And maybe those same teams maybe punt the ball at the young age. And while it can be effective and win you games, it's not really helping develop the players. And we're trying to really make sure that our kids are getting better every year and able to do the things they need to do at the next level when the next coach takes over. So if I've got a group of 8-year-olds and they go to my next coach and they're not able to do what they should be able to do, then me as a kind of director, I have to look back and say, well, why aren't they at that level at this point? And we need to look at that, because we really want to make sure that the kids are developing. And I know a lot of the other clubs feel the same way. I think there's a way to balance it. And obviously winning games, it's America, there's a scoreboard, and I get that, but it's tough sometimes having to have the patience to see that this is actually about developing your kid and your kid getting better, as opposed to the short term wins and losses. So we deal with a lot of that, but we try to do the right things.
When it comes to the WPSL in general and what you're diving into here with Decatur FC, what's it been like for you to see the game grow to where we're having a Decatur FC and a WPSL in its 25th season expanding to where it is? What's it been like for you to see the growth of the game to this particular point where we have the bookmark in the book here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic, the growth we've seen. I think at the top level, they seem to have a blueprint that's working, and the growth has been great. And some of the new stadiums that are, female only stadiums, like the Kansas City Current, that's a fantastic, standalone women's stadium, which is amazing. And you see a lot of the NWSL teams putting their second teams into this league. So I think that's another tribute to the WPS and the longevity that's have. When I was at the Atlanta Beat, we were really looking at potentially doing a second team to put in the WPSL. So our players would get plenty of minutes, and we'd also have a pool of players to pick from. So I think the growth of the women's game has been great, and it seems to be continuing to grow.
I think that if Manny McCoskey's knee doesn't explode the way that it did and kind of shake up that back line, I think that your first year at the Atlanta Beat probably would have been very different. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. But can you talk about your roster makeup? Like where are you pulling your players from now for this? What are the player profiles that you're looking for? This gets asked of a lot of coaches, and they're expecting cardboard answers. But I just think it's very interesting to hear the different mentalities of this is how we source our players. This is the kind of how our roster is going to be made up, and this is generally where we're pulling our players from.
So, I mean, we kind of have a year 1, year 2, year 3 plan. So year 1, to be fair, Coach Campbell Chapman, who put the roster together, I have to give him all the credit for our fabulous roster. He has obviously a lot of contacts and was able to put together this roster. But I know he wants to play an attractive brand of soccer, and that's very important to us. We really want to put on a show for the fans and play some good football. So from that point of view, I know that the roster is full of girls that are comfortable on the ball. We will be quick. We're going to try and press the opposition and win it back quickly. But it was important that we play, an attractive brand. So I know all the girls, profile-wise, that he's brought in will be comfortable on the ball and excited to attack. Most of the girls have an Atlanta, connection, and a lot of them are at different colleges all around the Southeast. And that was kind of our kind of plan 1 was let's get this roster together and play an attacking brand of football year 1 and see where we lie at the end of the season, because we were brand new, so we wanted to kind of obviously be competitive, and ultimately everyone wants to win, but we wanted to put together a roster that would play an attractive brand of football, give us a chance for success, and then at the end of the season we'll reflect and see what we want to do for next year. So that was kind of our process, but Campbell did put together the complete roster.
Gareth O'Sullivan giving us the curtain pullback on the debut for Decatur FC tonight at Decatur High School. If you are anywhere within the 30030, or shoot, if you're in the 30329 or 30345, anywhere close, come and visit and get to see something from the ground up, and everything that Gareth and his folks have done is investing in something from absolute zero to getting their first match in here in the WPSL. When it comes to, you mentioned the kind of player that you're wanting to bring in to attach to a style of play, but I know that you also want to bring in a particular kind of individual as well in the WPSL to represent Decatur FC. When you were looking for that kind of a balance of individual, what kind of individual are you looking for off the field to help represent Decatur FC as a part of this process, including on the field?
Yeah, I think, and I mentioned earlier that the community has really, engaged in this whole project. And it's very important that we have players that understand that they're part of something special. I mean, we'll have 1,200 people there tonight, which I think for the WPSL is fantastic. But the girls know that this is a unique opportunity, and they have to kind of do their part as well. We had, at the kit reveal, we had 4 girls out there signing autographs, mingling with the fans and the young girls and young boys from the community. We've done some other events, and we've got some more stuff coming to where we're going to ask the girls to really play a role in helping us at the grassroots level, not just promote the team, but promote women's soccer.
Nick, go for it.
I like swag and merchandise. I like, these are the things that make me very excited. So, are we able to purchase, swag? Are we able to purchase merch? I see the top end of a shirt there.
There it is.
There it is. All right. So where am I buying this stuff, man?
So if you go to DecaturFC.com, we have a link on there, and you can buy all sorts of swag. We will have the game jerseys available as well for sale. We will have a certain amount available for tonight's game, but then for our next home game on June 7th, we will have the whole range available. Oh. So it should be fun. But at DecaturFC.com, there's a link for the roster, sponsorships, but obviously shop. And if you click on shop, you can buy everything from a coffee tumbler to a yard sign to T-shirts to whatever it is you feel like.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They're probably going to get a fair portion of a credit card that is going to get singed on my end. We can stack the studio with the Decatur FC gear as well.
Love to hear it. I know
the boss will do it. Let everybody know, because it's not just the game today. It is a full-blown experience that is going to be starting at a place that you know intimately in Decatur in the square as a part of this whole thing. But what is the game day experience going to be like as everyone works their way eventually to Decatur High School?
So, yeah, we've got a kind of a pre-party going on at the square today. It's really exciting. It actually starts off with the City Decatur Public Works. They're going to be out there at 3:00, and they're having their own kind of celebration of the team and celebration of their involvement. And Cara Scherer from the city's assistant city manager, she's been instrumental in making this all happen. And she's got a big group out there today, and they'll have music and, food and beverage, and they'll be having a good old time. And then Jason Longshore will be coming up to join us around 4:30,
Never heard of them.
And then the girls are going to come make an appearance, and Jason will be able to introduce them, and we'll have some giveaways and stuff. And then the girls will make their way down to the stadium. And then I think at 6:15 or so, we're going to have the march to the stadium from the square. So that should be a lot of fun. And it's good. It's obviously our first time doing all of this, so we're not exactly sure how it's going to play out exactly, but we're going to give it a good go to have a lot of fun today.
And the beautiful part is that the march is downhill.
The march is downhill. That is correct. So yes, that will definitely help. And now the way back up afterwards might be difficult.
Correct. Yes. And so that's why maybe you should, plan a meal after the match is over. There's some places in the square that you could perhaps kind of hang out at. And this is the beginning of our relationship with SDH and Decatur FC. And so we figured where it would be great to have you on here to break everything down. One of our viewers / listeners is in Charleston, South Carolina. And they're watching right now, and they're understanding that your accent is not an accent of Tucker, Georgia. So where are you from? They want to know your bio background in the bio blast, Gareth, and how you ended up here in this part of the planet.
So, I mean, it might be a bit of a giveaway with the painting behind me, but I'm from County Mayo in the west of Ireland. And I've been over here most of my adult life, to be fair, with a few extenuated. I was 5 years in Iceland and back in Ireland for 18 months in the middle of all that. But I did come to college over here at University of Memphis. So yeah, definitely Ireland. When I go home, they say I've lost my accent. So, it is what it is,
It's all good.
But after a few pints, it comes back, So
absolutely. Gareth, looking forward to a full day in the city of Decatur and the unveiling of Decatur FC with the first match in the history of Decatur FC, Decatur High School. Just go to the square in the middle of the afternoon, get your weekend started, head downhill, go watch the match, and spend your time in Decatur. Thanks for dropping by. I know that this is a massively busy time for you, getting everything rolled out as the proud papa of this whole thing. Can't wait to see how it all rolls out. We'll be there tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the morning show.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. That's Gareth O'Sullivan. So Gareth survived the morning show, Nick, and he's going to get back to making sure that the entire city of Decatur rolls out and is there for the matchup tonight. It's going to be a fun experience on a bunch of different levels, because you know how we talk about things happening from the ground level and seeing something from ground zero, from absolute zero. And it's the first chance that we get for Decatur FC. Tonight, it's against Atlanta Fire, 7 o'clock kick. But basically, if you show up there middle of the afternoon in the square in downtown Decatur, something's going on. And some guy named Longshore is going to be there at some point, like 4:30-ish, to kind of get everything rolling. And so big stuff here, and glad that SDH is partnering with Decatur FC and seeing what's going on there. But no, it's going to be a fun one tonight. And it's the beginning of the WPSL season in earnest on our end, and we're going to catch up with our friends at Impact next week, because their home opener on the 1st, and we'll find out what's going on there with Georgia Impact up there in Canton. We figured we'd catch up with our friends at Decatur FC first time. So what do you think about Gareth in the ground up?
Hey, he's a great guy. He had the Atlanta beat experience for everyone. Everyone was as challenging as you could possibly imagine. I've seen very few people who handled situations like that handle it with as much grace as he did. Yeah. He knows this business inside and out from the coaching perspective. He, building up youth programs, running college teams. He had work with Adidas for a while. So he knows from both the kit supplier standpoint, player acquisition, scouting, where to go, who to talk to. He knows everything top to bottom. So if there was anyone who was going to be starting a WPSL team, I'm thrilled that it's Gareth, because number one, he's a quality stand-up guy. And then two, he knows what can happen when things go sideways, and he knows how to adjust. And then he knows how to build a sustainable model, because he knows how to develop youth players. Very few people, I think, would be as qualified as him to step in and start a team from the ground up like that.
No, it's really cool. And like I said, we're going to be keeping an eye on Decatur FC. And what you also may want to do is download the Mixlr app, by the way, mixlr.com, or you can go to soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. And there might be a couple of matches for a WPSL activity this season that you'll hear on the SDH network. So great to catch up with Gareth and see what's going on at Decatur FC. Matchup tonight kicks off at 7, but basically just, after lunch. It's a holiday weekend, and if your boss is mad that you're leaving like early afternoon, mid-afternoon, it's like, hey, dude, it's a holiday weekend. I got a soccer match to see, and I'm going to go party. If they got a problem, have your boss call us. We'll let him know.
We'll talk to your boss. That's no problem.
We'll talk
That's
to you.
No problem. Here's what I'm going to tell your boss. I'm just going to give you a heads up, right? So when Tuesday, when you go back in, if you're allowed to go back in, your boss is going to call us, and I'm going to say, I'm sorry. Are you? I thought this was America, okay? And we do not allow the communists to demand that the worker stay at their post until 6 p.m. on a holiday weekend. This is not allowed, okay? And this is clearly a violation of constitutional rights, that you should be forced to do Excel spreadsheets and answer emails at 5:45 p.m. on a holiday Friday. And so I demand, in the name of all right good gentlemen and ladies of the American persuasion, that this person be allowed their due rights and freedom to go and hang out in Decatur on the square, because I will not. You may sit here, all right, and badmouth me if you like, good sir. However, I will not sit here and allow you to badmouth the United States of America.
Gentlemen. Absolutely. I mean,
that's what I'm going to tell your boss.
Well, because Nick, I heard you were pre-law.
Pre-med, but whatever.
Thank you. But no, it's going to be fun, and this is part of what we talk about when it comes to showing support for your local teams, regardless of division. And it's the team around the corner, and showing support on that level, because you never know where that support can go and grow and continue to evolve. You never know who you touch. You never know how many folks you touch. You never know what that impression of a particular local team can do to someone who's exposed to it for the first time. And so, as we've always said, rising tide lifts all boats. Georgia Impact is a part of that. WPSL is a part of it. USL League 2 is a part of it. Andy King, absolutely correct. Support local. Hashtag support local without the
seriously, all joking aside, if you are really tired and really pissed off of the Globo Corps taking over teams, nation states taking over teams, if you're tired of this like super crazy hyper corporate view of sport, there's a great antidote, and that's support your local team. Are you going to be sitting in custom molded seats? Probably not. You're probably going to be sitting on bleachers. But I seem to remember when Atlanta United was playing at Bobby Dodd, and we were sitting on bleachers or standing on bleachers, and we had a great freaking time. And if you go and, you enjoy yourself however you elect to enjoy yourself here in God's country, then, then go out there and support people who are trying to do something independently, right? We support independent brewers because, we support entrepreneurs. We support people who are busting their asses trying to make something cool and unique. My God. And authentic. Cool, unique, and authentic.
Oh, I don't know if we can handle that, sir.
Well, look, you better handle buying a ticket and showing up, because I think it's worth supporting entities and endeavors like this.
So once again, support local, regardless of division. Like I said, it can be everything from high school to club to organized league. Doesn't matter the division. Support local, because you never know who you touch and where the game continues to grow. Pulling the bookmark back out of the weekend whip around. And we were wrapping up our discussion on Minnesota United. Dell says that Tommy Scoops posting on the 280 character app. Michael Boxall on Extra Time on Reynoso, quote, when he's in the building, on the training pitch, on the field with you in person, he's the nicest guy. I don't know. Something happens when he touches down in Cordoba. Beat. Yeah. End quote.
We all know stories like this.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm speaking from Pea Pick and Hee Haw, Paulding County, you know, and there have been many a fine future ruined because of an ill-timed spring break.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have people who are anchors. They're never leaving.
Yeah.
Right. They're staying in that town. They're never leaving. And they expect you to have not changed at all. Your priorities have not changed. Your plans for the future have not changed. So why shouldn't you come and do all the dumb things we used to do?
Come on back
10
home.
or 15 years ago. I'm just saying, man, be very careful.
Yes.
Sebastian Telfair comes to mind.
Yes.
He was a guy who was next for the NBA. He
was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when they made deadline,
and could not get away from his buddies. Could not get away. Michael Vick is another one who comes to mind. Could not get away from his buddies. Had the entire world at his feet, literally, and could not get away from his buddies, and it destroyed his damn life. They're good Lord. I mean, the number of folks in the NFL that it's happened to is mind bending.
Yeah.
You've had it happen in soccer as well.
It's out there, man.
It's out there, guys who go home and get back into the world of, of what they used to deal with. They spend all that time and energy fighting to get away.
Yep.
And then all it takes is one slip up, baby. And suddenly you're on the social medias with friends flashing bags and guns. And who's the John Morant?
Yeah.
John Morant, another one.
Yep.
That poor guy. I say poor guy because of his poor decision making.
Yes.
Flashing guns ends up getting suspended without pay. I mean, you're costing yourself money, man. It's
absolutely. LAG and Houston Dynamo as we take a right turn. The late games, 4 of them at 10:30 Eastern time. LAG on the minus side at a minus 120. Houston on the road, almost a plus 300 in the composite, plus 286 on the draw.
I'll take the draw.
Wow. Okay.
I'll take the draw.
Okay.
I'm not feeling. I think that I think Houston's going to clamp.
Yeah, that's what I figured. If you're
They're gonna
taking the
clamp
draw,
down.
that's what I figured. That was going to be the play. That was going to happen. Portland and Sporting. Portland favored on the minus side at a minus 105. Draws a plus 289. Sporting Kansas City, who played in the midweek but had no issues with FC Tulsa, at a plus 248.
Portland's a bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Sporting's a bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm. So that way you're going draw.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm actually not going draw on this one.
Okay.
Sporting Kansas City is a team that whenever we seem to count them out,
Mm-hmm.
they pull some magical, buffoonery out of their nether regions. And
zombie Sporting, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take Sporting. This just feels like a zombie moment to me.
Okay.
And they're it's like Friday the 13th with them. It's like, oh my God, we finally killed Jason Voorhees, and then like he sits up, it's like, oh God, and then the stupid fraternity guy gets macheted across the head.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll take
Sporting.
zombie Sporting on this
Zombie
one.
Sporting. You talk about another team in trouble. San Jose's at a minus 122. Favored at home against Austin FC. Austin FC is a plus 285. Your draw is north of plus 300.
I'll take Austin.
Yeah. And then Vancouver hosting Inter Miami, and Messi and friends will be just and friends because the flight left yesterday from South Florida to head from one end of the planet to the other. And not on said plane, which is a reminder to fix your fantasy team, fix your fantasy team, fix your fantasy team. No Messi, no Suarez, no Busquets. Heading to Vancouver, and Vancouver FC felt compelled to post a message to social media telling the fans that this was the case. The numbers flipped, understandably so. Vancouver now at home is a minus 120, playing and friends. Draws north of plus 300. And friends to win is a plus 284 in the composite.
I'm gonna take Vancouver.
Yeah.
If I can have a moment here.
Yes, I yield the floor.
If you are spending 5-6 times above normal ticket value for a spectacle and it blows up in your face, I have no sympathy for you. You are paying for a spectacle. This is no different than when people would go and they would spend absolutely insane amounts of money to see Stone Temple Pilots when Scott Weiland was in his ultra train wreck days, or George Jones. We're going to see No Show Jones, and then they would get mad because they spent all this money on tickets, and then George Jones didn't show up.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Look, I get it. Everybody wants to see Messi. Everybody wants. I don't know too many people who are like, I'm going to spend so much money to see Suarez. But I'm sure there are people out there who do that.
Right.
If you are spending over a certain amount of money, and I'm talking like 3-4 times over MSRP for a freaking ticket,
right,
just to see a singular individual play, there is a known risk to that purchase. Okay. You are banking everything on a single point of failure. Single point of failure. If Messi wakes up in the morning and he has bubble guts, he ate one of those weird Miami pizzas,
or he went to Publix and got a wrong sub.
Yeah, he goes and gets a pub sub and it gives him bubble guts and he ain't playing. That is a you problem. That's not a Messi problem. That's not a Vancouver problem. That's not a Miami problem. That's a you problem, because you took the gamble of purchasing a $300 ticket. If you purchase an MLS ticket for $300 damn to watch a singular player, that's a you problem because you're gambling.
Mm-hmm.
You're gambling for an experience. You're not gambling for a jackpot. You're gambling for an experience. So I have sympathy for you. I do. But I have a sympathy like someone who goes and spends their college fund trying to win at blackjack. Like, oh, damn, that's going to suck tomorrow. Like, that's my sympathy. Like, oh, damn, you're really going to hate that when the power bill comes due. If you got the money to burn, baby, burn it. But I just see on social media so many people getting angry because they're like, Vancouver charged us X amount and the resale ticket value was this and it didn't even who paid the ticket? Did Vancouver put an object to your head and say, buy this ticket?
Bruh.
Did they do that? Did somebody come up and say, if you buy this ticket, then you shall have everlasting life? No, nobody did that. Nobody said you were going to get an Ultra Charizard if you bought this $300 ticket. You said, I'm going to see Lionel Messi play. Lionel Messi said, no, you're not. So, I mean, it's a gamble. It's a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be mad at anyone else except the person who hit confirm purchase.
Yeah.
That's it. Just be mad at that person. And that's hard to do. But be mad at that person.
Yes. Hutch makes an excellent point about gas station sushi.
Oh, my God. Never do that. Oh,
no, never do that. And Andy says, yeah, that they went through that in USL Championship when Didier Drogba was in Phoenix playing for Rising.
Yep.
Yes, and Dell, the Pokemon mention on his bingo card. Absolutely true. All right, so one last game on the board, and that is Atlanta United and LAFC. The numbers have flipped, and LAFC is now favored at a plus 142. Atlanta United's a plus 165. Draws a plus 279 in the composite. And there is no Yakimakis. Almada questionable. And you've got a team coming off of Open Cup. The team in the midweek did not have Saba, had Brooks Lennon play north of 30 minutes. Bartosz Slisz played north of 30 minutes. You started Jamal, and it will be intriguing. And frankly, it will be intriguing to see what both of these game day rosters are, because LAFC started a lot of their big guns in their Open Cup match at home against Loudoun United. They won 3-0. Denny Bouanga played 80 minutes. Bogish played 90 minutes. Ilie had to be pulled after 23 minutes because of a precaution on an injury thought. So that meant that Atuesta played 67 minutes. You probably will get Lloris between the sticks because he did not play in the midweek. I don't know what the offense is going to look like for LAFC. We kind of know what the offense is going to look like for Atlanta United. This one has question marks written all over it.
Yeah. This is if Lloris plays, I could see LAFC walking out with like a 2-0 win, because I think Lloris still has significant ability. It's Atlanta is going to, in my opinion, feel the need, whether this is Pineda's plan or not, to make a statement and to try and really push to get a win, right? Yeah. They're going to push to get a win. And I think, and what concerns me is my defensive nature.
Yeah.
I fear that that's going to leave a lot of space exposed in the back, because they are going to be pushing hard for a goal. I would love to see Atlanta get a win here. They have momentum. I want to see what happens with LAFC. I think that this is a game that Atlanta will have. If Saba has been skewing his shots wide, right? Because it feels like he's trying to aim for the post. Like he's trying to tuck it right inside of the post. If Saba straightens his shot out a touch, and Saba's probably listening to this if he is, and he's probably like, this idiot has no idea what he's talking. But it feels like he's pulling wide, right? Mm-hmm. Just trying to find that gap, that angle where the keeper just can't get to it.
Right.
If Saba, instead goes a little more direct, Atlanta could walk out of this win. To me, Saba is the key for the Atlanta United this week. Gigi's going to be out. Who knows how long?
Yep.
But I feel that this is going to be Saba for two reasons. One, Saba will hold the ball and draw people to him, which will allow space for others to operate freely. A depleted LAFC, players are on the bench for several reasons, but if you have players on the bench who are trying to, maybe they're a bit more physical than they are tactical, so they're not staying at home quite as well as they should, and they drift towards Saba, that creates space in the middle. And it's if he does that and it's taken advantage of, Atlanta could walk out a winner. If Saba goes a bit more direct and puts one or two in the back of the net, it could be the jailbreak that this team desperately needs to not just get out of, we escaped, but instead we kicked in the damn door and took what was ours. That's a season changer, right? Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, but to me, the key is Saba, no matter what. The key is Saba here. And because if you have, I want to see who starts opposite for, who starts on the left. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works.
Yeah.
It's hard. I see what Dell's saying. Dell says, I have a bad feeling about the game. I think LAFC runs right and Pineda gets fired. Just what I'm seeing in my crystal ball. Right. It would be hard for me to see Pineda getting let go with this schedule compression. I don't think Emilio says we're going for 65% possession again. I don't think so. I honestly think that, and this is where, Schmetzer, the Schmetzer effect comes into play, is that Schmetzer in Seattle, there were times when he was very direct, right? Sometimes they could hold the ball, and sometimes he would just say, baby, we're bunkering today. We're going to bunker the hell out. I don't know if Pineda's going to do that, but with the results being what they are, he might say, look, we're going to be a bit more defensive because, we can't attack quite like I want to. So we might have to get a little ugly on this one. And maybe that's what happens here. I don't think it's going to be 65% possession. I could see, mid 50s, but I don't see 65% possession on this. That's just my thought.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking it's probably Caleb and Brooks on the edges. I don't know how many minutes Brooks can give me, but I figure Brooks starts. Caleb on the left, Brooks on the right. Noah, I'm not counting on Noah, so it's probably some combination of Ronald and Stian and Ephra as your three center backs. Since you didn't play Tristan in the midweek, Tristan will start. Since we don't know about Thiago, to me, Nick Firmino is out of commission because he played 120 in the midweek. I've got Saba on my front line. Shande probably on the left. That Mosqueda, since he played 120, he's not going to be playing either. Do you start Rios, or is it a combination of Rios and Jamal up top in the middle? So there's Palace intrigue that's attached to this lineup because of Open Cup in the midweek and because of the injuries that are on top of it. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. But
Schlieff is going to have a great game. He's going to have to have a great game.
Yeah.
If you have a team that has significant attacking options out because of a midweek game, you can't allow their backups to run free in the middle. Schlieff is going to have to lay the hammer down early and make them pay. It's to use a sort of a football analogy here, when the Patriots were playing against the the St. Louis Rams,
Right.
in the Super Bowl after September 11th. So it was with the 2001, the 2001-02 Super Bowl. Belichick said, we're going to let the Rams do whatever they want between the 20s.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do between the 20s, have fun. But the minute they get down to the 20-yard line, we're going to knock them into oblivion.
Yeah, because you don't have space to operate. Really, in the grand scheme of things, time of possession and what you do in that middle 60 yards of American football field does not matter at the end of the day. When you have an offense like what St. Louis had, and you have less field to operate in, then you can be more physical, and then you can sit there and assert yourself defensively because there's less space for a free-flowing offense to operate.
Correct. And so if LAFC wants to play a certain way and they try to implement their same style of play with largely backup talent, the key is going to be disrupting timing on that. So we want to disrupt timing early. We don't want them to get into situations where they are able to dictate pace. Especially when you have backups, because backups are going to be questioning. They're trying to find chemistry early on, right, with the starters.
Yep.
And they can get a lot of that during the week, but it's one thing when you're going against, blue on blue. It's completely different when you're going, blue on red. So you want to disrupt the timing early. Schließ is going to be a huge part of that. It's when you can divert or shunt someone to one side or the other, playing almost that stopper role, that will be very beneficial because it allows your defenders to look at a smaller piece of pie and say, okay, this is my zone, because now they are getting shunted my way, right? I don't have to worry about 4 different options that I've got to pick up, because the way that the ball is being moved is now being partially dictated by our defense, our defensive posture. And if Schließ is able to come in and disrupt timing and force people out to the wings, and Gregerson is able to say, hey, boys, we are going to be very physical in the air. We're not letting people get jumping, bouncing headers. If somebody goes up, they're getting a body on them. Atlanta could walk out of this with a win. It can happen. So I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it's over for Atlanta United. LAFC is going to run riot. I can see why someone would say that. I can. And there's no but. I personally think that if Schließ has a good game and diverts and shunts attacks or forces people into lateral or backwards passes, then you have a great opportunity. When it comes to when you shunt the person outside, your center backs then have to be able to say, okay, we're setting a tone in the air, right? We're not going to play dirty because we're inside the 18, so we can't play dirty. We can't be hyper physical, but we can put a hip on a hip. There's nothing saying you cannot put a hip on a hip. And VAR will likely protect you in that situation, that if you go up hip to hip and it's a legitimate attempt to get the ball. Do not lean. Do not lift arms. It is booty on booty crime, right? You are going out there, you're throwing ass mid-game. Go out there and throw your hips into them. Atlanta can be physical. Atlanta can dictate at least, you shall not pass in this particular area, and we're going to make you one-dimensional. But when it becomes one-dimensional, you have to be in charge of your space. And so if Saba is able to dictate things up top by pulling coverage one way and creating space and opportunity, then Atlanta has to capitalize. Someone has to put shots on frame. No back heels, no dancing, pull the damn trigger. And on the back, Schließ is going to start things right at the top of the 18, shunting to the left or right. don't get in foul trouble early, but play physical. And the ref's going to have a say-so in this, right? The ref will have a say-so in this. There is merit to playing knife fight in a phone booth. Mm-hmm. Philly makes a living out of it. I don't want that kind of ball here, but I think in this situation, we need to be ready to do that. So I don't mind. Get knife fight in a phone booth for the first 20 because it's going to set a tone. Just for the first 20, give me a knife fight in the phone booth. After that, all bets are off. But the first 20 minutes, give me a knife fight in a phone booth.
Well, and we've seen in the past going up against LAFC that if they get bumped off their game, then, I mean, literally, if you're physical with them early, then you bump them off of their game and they get rattled and they don't know how to respond if they're allowed, if the team that is going up against them is allowed to be physical. And we ran the numbers on Sergi Boyko, the man in the middle. Boyko only averages 18 fouls a game called so far this season in his first 6 matches. Courtesy of our friends at Who Scored. And I think, let me get the numbers up really quickly. I don't believe that I think he only gives like 3.5 yellows per. So 0.62 fouls per tackle. On average, he's only blowing the whistle 18 times and then calling fouls. So it looks like he's going to let folks play. 3.5 yellows per match, and he has given 1 red this season. So Sergi Boyko's at the bottom of the scale when it comes to fouls called per match this season in Major League Soccer.
Knife fight in a phone booth. Do it.
Yes.
That doesn't mean, when I say knife fight in a phone booth, that doesn't mean you drop everyone back and play low block the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying bunker and counter. What I am saying, though, is that defensive responsibility starts with the anticipatory action, meaning that if you're in the attack phase, there are certain players who have to start looking at the way the ball's progressing and say, okay, we're getting into a situation where if we lose the ball for whatever reason, there's a divot in the turf. A lightning bolt from God, a parachute man lands midfield, whatever it is. I need to be ready to drop back into coverage immediately. So I can't push as high as I want to. And if you are able to sort of read that situation and think about the spacing behind you,
yeah,
it allows the gaps to be filled quickly. And when you fill those gaps quickly, when you compress and you fill those spaces, what happens is the other team then has to pass horizontally or backwards to start their cycle over again because they're just trying to keep possession. And when that happens, then you are protecting yourself from those quick banger goals. And that's what I think happens sometimes with Atlanta United in transition play. The other team gets the ball. We saw this with DC, and it is like 100-yard dash down to the other side. And Atlanta needed to recompose and find space faster. So I think that from a defensive role, we need to start looking at anticipatory action. When the ball's in a certain space outside of the 18, we need to kind of hedge our bet here. When we're in the 18, okay, now I'm going to take the gamble and bum rush the top of the 18 to kind of catch that rebound pass if it gets loose, right? And to help keep the ball down here. But until we get to the 18, I have to hedge my bet. And, that's where the knife fight in the phone booth comes in. When the other team does recover, immediately you're putting a hip on them. That doesn't mean, you come sliding in hyper aggressively. That doesn't mean you come throw an elbow. But what happens is, you're playing physical from the start. You're every time there's an opportunity to receive a pass, somebody's getting checked. There's a body on them. And that means you got to close down quickly.
Right.
And so that's what I mean by knife fight in the phone booth. You got to play physical and be physical right away to let them know, okay, instead of I'm gonna, if the offensive player says I'm gonna receive a ball, I'm gonna turn, I'm gonna go. Okay, but now somebody bumps you from behind. Oh, wait, hold up. Okay, I got somebody here. Okay, so am I going to spin them? Am I going to look at the back pass? Am I going to look, is there an option horizontally here? Now I have to start going through the variables. Now I have to think. And that takes time. And in that time frame, it allows, if everyone else is doing their job, it allows those spaces to be covered. And it goes from being a surefire connected pass from me to someone else to now being 50-50. So that's the issue right now short story, very long, gap control, space control, and anticipatory action on defense. If we do that, we have a shot.
Nothing behind you, everything in front of you. Doesn't matter what happens in front of you, but they get in close to your 18, 25 yards and in, that's when you close it down and send a couple of messages early on in the middle third that, yeah, we're here and we're going to be physical, because Sergi Boyko doesn't like to, he's not going to call foul. So,
yeah. And with, the reason why I say Schließ is because your 6 needs to sort of do a Jedi mind trick.
Okay.
Right. This is not the space you want to drive through. You want to go over there. Right. And so if that is done correctly, you have a player who's driving forward who suddenly questions, can I take this dude on one-on-one?
Right.
Okay. No, I got to get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
Right. So whether I do a big looping cross or I try to do, a little bit of horizontal play here. If I do horizontal play, I do a back pass, then it allows the rest of my cohort to drop in and help defend. Right. It just buys time. If they keep doing vertical and incisive passing, there's no time for that. And then you're talking about having to take bad angles. You're talking about those issues where the cards will start flying. If you start doing bad angles, if you start doing, quote unquote professional fouls.
Yes.
Just be careful with those. But for the first 20 minutes, you play physical as hell.
So Nick has Sleesh and Saba in the spot shadow. Our weekend is like this. The Atlanta United match is 7:40 kick. So pregame 92.9, the game in the Odyssey app, is at 6:30 with Abe and Garrett, Mike and Jason dropping by. They'll have play-by-play of the match. We will also be monitoring Atlanta United 2. They are in Chattanooga, and because of this scheduling harmonic convergence, we'll just be doing things on social media, starting with their kick a little before 7 o'clock. And so we'll keep an eye on the 2s in Chattanooga. Be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Maddie and Jared will be there as a part of what's going on. And I'll be there as well with my big 30-foot head on the board. Today, it's Decatur FC, 7 o'clock pregame a little beforehand. And I think it's Jason's on the call, and we have a special individual who I believe will be in the booth calling color for that one. And I believe the boss and I will be in the stands heckling the broadcast booth in Decatur tonight. So looking forward to seeing everybody in Decatur for Decatur FC. Support all your local squads and have fun doing that. So very, very busy. Yes, we are going to have a show on Monday because it is a Reaction Monday. We'll be here at 9:05, but Atlanta United 2 on Saturday, 7 o'clock for the 2s on social media. Keep an eye out that. We'll let you know what's going on. 7:40 for the kick for the 2 for Atlanta United and LAFC, and we'll have everything laid out for you there as well. A lot of programming coming out today. We've got our USLW, League One, and Championship review previews. They're already up. Soccer for US POD has a new episode up. It is out later today. You'll get your NPSL update and your USL League 2 update to get you ready for everything going on the weekend. So we got a lot of ish that we are talking about today and for the weekend. Be safe this weekend, first and foremost. It's supposed to be like 9 gazillion degrees outside. Be safe, stay hydrated, and remember what the weekend is for, and remember what Monday is for as well. We'll talk about that more on Monday, but just be safe this weekend because this is the unofficial start of the summer season, even though we're probably another month. We're a month away from the actual thing from kicking in, and we'll let you know from there. But a very, very busy weekend. Thanks to Gareth O'Sullivan for dropping by. Thanks to Michael Parkhurst for dropping by. Nick, thanks as always. When you get to drop by, it's always great to hear your voice now that you're on this side of the planet and you're not globetrotting and curing all of the world's videographic ills when it comes to stuff that needs to be done.
Yeah, real quick to close out, it is Memorial Day weekend, right?
Yes.
So just keep in mind, really, look, I say this as a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
The first Memorial Day was a picnic. Okay. The first Memorial Day remembrance, it was a picnic. Celebrate, time with your friends, your family, barbecue, go to concerts, do these things that you need to do. Okay. Just take a brief moment when you're lifting your beers, at least lift one or non-alcoholic beverage of your choice.
Yes.
Just lift one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For those who didn't make it back. That's it. That's all I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to thank veterans. This is not our day. Thank you, Deldo. I appreciate that, baby. This is not our day. This is not those of us who are here and back. This is for those who did not come back.
Mm-hmm.
Just raise one glass for them. Okay. This is, I don't know any veteran or anyone who has ever served who would not appreciate someone grilling a badass steak or an ice cold beverage on their behalf. Okay. So grill, spend time, enjoy, and just raise one. That's it. You do that, I think you're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And with that, and hey, Captain Richie Cliff for Dell says, my buddy died in Afghanistan, so I'm remembering him, Captain Richie Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We have people who, regardless of what your thoughts are on Iraq, Afghanistan, any of that,
mm-hmm.
Vietnam, Korea, all the way back,
Mm-hmm.
Desert Storm. At the end of the day, people have signed up with the right intentions to what they believe were in service of you and your country. And it is a hard freaking path for these families to walk when they don't come home.
Yep.
So raise one, grill one, and go about and have a great freaking weekend, because that is what every damn service member I know would want. If it was me in that situation, I would want the biggest grilling, music blasting party humanly possible. I would want the cops called because of a noise ordinance issue. I would want the liquor store being like, guys, you cannot buy any more damn beer. I would want Whole Foods or Buckhead Butcher being like, you guys are really going to take all these damn ribeyes?
Yes, we are.
Hell yes, we are. Okay, so do that. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, mucho euro, y'all, and much love to all of our friends and loved ones who did not return.
What he said. Busy weekend. Be safe. We'll talk about it again more on Monday.